All right, we're good.
Okay. Call to order the regular board meeting of the Governing Board of Trustees of the Romoland School District is called to order at 5:30 p.m. We're going to do roll call. Mr. Reller.
Here.
Hello?
Mr. Reller responded with a positive here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Debbie, we can hear you.
Okay, because my computer is freezing. So Mr. Reller must have said here. Mr. Sperry?
Here.
Ms. Kleitz?
Here.
Mr. Geary?
Here.
And myself, Ms. Moon. We are going to move on to the annual organizational meeting items and Mr. Payton to preside.
Thank you, Ms. Moon. So our once a year annual organization meeting is this evening. And so good evening, board members. As superintendent, I will preside over the annual organizational meeting items from C1 to C4 on this agenda, which include the election of both the board president and the board clerk. Please note that our current board president and board clerk will remain seated until closed session concludes this evening, and the persons nominated as board president and board clerk will take their seats after we return to open session at 6:30. I will then introduce the elected officials prior to the Pledge of Allegiance. So that's kind of the process. So let's begin with C1. It is the election of our governing board president of the Romoland School District. And I'm going to ask for any nominations for the governing board president.
I nominate Manny Aguirre for president.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm a little out of practice on this. Who is the second? Was that Gary?
Gary.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do I have, so we had a nomination and then Gary seconded. Sorry. Nikki, I'm not as good as you at this. Is there any discussion on this item?
No.
Got a problem with it, Manny?
Not at all.
I think we're good to go.
All right, so we'll go ahead and do our voting. Mr. Aguirre,
Yes.
Ms. Kleitz,
Oh, yes.
Mr. Reller,
Yes.
Mr. Sperry,
Absolutely.
and Ms. Moon.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Mr. Aguirre. You'll be our board president when we open up an open session this evening.
Thank you.
C2, election of governing board clerk of the Romoland School District. Is there a nomination for the governing board clerk?
I nominate David Sperry.
I'll second that.
I was going to nominate Gary.
Okay. You guys are a little fast for me. Can I need a name on who seconded that? Who seconded that
Gary.
motion? Gary?
Here.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing no discussion, we'll go ahead and go to the vote. Mr. Aguirre?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Kleitz?
Aye.
Mr. Reller?
Aye.
Mr. Sperry?
Aye.
And Ms. Moon?
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Sperry, on being elected as our board clerk for the next.
Thank you.
C3, selection of representative for our annual county committee on school district organization election. Is there a nomination for the annual county committee representative?
I nominate Gary Reller.
Yes.
Second.
It's not a good idea to nominate me because I can't vote. because I am employed in a school district in Riverside, Riverside County, so I can't vote. So it's not a good idea to nominate me.
Same here. So I nominate Marla.
I will second that.
I didn't know
Okay,
that.
we have a motion and a nomination for Miss Marla Kleitz and a second by Mr. Gary Reller. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing no discussion, we'll go to votes. Mr. Aguirre,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and Ms. Moon.
Aye.
Congratulations, Ms. Kleitz. All right, C4, designation of our board meeting day, time, and location. The selection of the day, time, and location for the regular meetings of the Governing Board of Trustees of the Romoland School District is determined at this time, and the suggested dates for 2021 are provided for your reference on the board agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the proposed meeting date, time, and location for the regular board meetings of the Governing Board of Trustees for 2021 as presented?
A motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
None of these meetings occurred during spring break.
We've checked with our calendars. We don't believe that we have any conflicts at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Aguirre, we're going to go to voting, excuse me. Mr. Aguirre,
Yes.
Ms. Kleitz,
Yes.
Mr. Reller,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Sperry,
Yes.
and Ms. Moon.
Yes.
At this point, I will turn the meeting back over to Ms. Moon as board president.
Okay, we are going to move on to C5, appointment of superintendent as secretary to the board. The governing board of trustees appoints the superintendent as the secretary of governing board of trustees of the Romoland School District. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Mr. Aguirre,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and I for Ms. Moon. C6, appointment of superintendent as authorized agent. The governing board of trustee appoints the superintendent to act as the authorized agent on behalf of the governing board of trustees of the Romoland School District. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, Mr. Aguirre,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and I for Ms. Moon. C7, appointment of superintendent as CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act Officer. The governing board of trustees appoints the superintendent as the California Environmental Quality Act Officer on behalf of the Romoland School District. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Great. Any discussion? And all in favor, Mr. Aguirre,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and Ms. Moon, aye. And C8, certification of signatures. Ms. Cole to explain this item.
Yes, so this certification is actually done annually. and it notifies the County Office of Education, those people who are authorized to sign documents on behalf of the district.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All
We'll
in-
have to,
Sorry.
we'll have to do this item at a future date with the new, with the new CBO. Is that correct? Or
Yes, that's correct. It will be brought to the board again so that that signature can be authorized in the future. Yes,
okay, thank you, Carol.
you're welcome.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor, Mr. Geary,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and Ms. Moon, aye. Public comment for closed session items. Nikki, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay, closed session is called at 5:41 PM to discuss public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and negotiations.
Hey, Marla, since you're here, I can see that. I'm assuming you can hear me right now.
Yes, I can hear you.
Remember,
Okay.
you're streaming. We're streaming out live. Remember that.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Are we good to go?
You're ready when you are.
Okay. The regular board meeting of the Romoland School District is reconvened at 6:30. Is there any actions taken in closed session, Mr. Sperry?
No actions were taken.
Okay. So now we go to introduction of the elected Board of Trustee members, officers. Mr. Payton.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. I'd like to introduce the following elected organizational officers from our annual organizational meeting. The board member elected to serve as board president is Mr. Manny Aguirre. Manny, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And our board member elected as board clerk is Mr. David Sperry. So congratulations, Mr. Sperry. I'd also like to thank Ms. Moon for her past actual year of service, 2 years really, as board president. Ms. Moon, thank you very much. And Mr. Aguirre for his service as our board clerk for the past year. At this time, I'd also like to introduce our 2 board members that were reelected from Trustee Area 2 and Trustee Area 4. Directly following my introductions, Ms. Nikki Thaxton will administer the oath of office for each trustee member. Mr. David Sperry was reelected for Trustee Area 2. Congratulations, Mr. Sperry. We got you for 4 more years minimum. And Mr. Aguirre was reelected for Trustee Area 4. So congratulations to you both. And I'm going to turn it over to Nikki for your oath of office.
Thank you, Mr. Payton. Mr. Sperry, I will go ahead and initiate your oath first, and then we'll continue on to Mr. Aguirre. Are you ready? Okay. If you can repeat after me. I, David Sperry,
I, David Sperry,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm that I will,
or affirm that I will
support and defend the Constitution of the United States
support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution
and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Sperry. You are officially Trustee Area 2 Board of Trustee member. Okay, Mr. Aguirre, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, please repeat after me. I, Manuel Aguirre,
I, Manuel Geary,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm that I will
or affirm that I will
support and defend
support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to
and allegiance to
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully
well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, you are also officially Trustee Area 4 Board of Trustee member. Congratulations, Mr. Sperry and Mr. Gary, and I will pass it back over to Mr. Gary as Board President.
Yes, we will now do the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now read the governance norms. We agree to act with dignity, respect differences, build trust, work as a team, engage the public, focus on success of every student, work together for the common good. Is it so now? Governing Board and Superintendent, we will now move on to the reports. Ms. Kleitz, do you have anything to report?
I don't know if this is the right time or not, but I know this is Mrs. Cole's last meeting with us. And I just want to make it public, Ms. Cole, that I personally have appreciated everything you've done while you served here in Romoland. You kept us fiscally sound and you were transparent and you put up with the board members and their awkward little questions sometimes. And we appreciate that. I know sometimes we run you through the rigors, but coming from me and hopefully the rest of the board, you will be missed. And we thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you, Mr. Reller.
I would concur with Ms. Kleitz about Carol and her service to our community. Each of us board members have our, as Marla said, our own quirks about the questions we like to ask. Sometimes we ask them over and over every year. And Carol, you have been have indulged us in the things that we like to talk about and presented information in a manner that each of us can understand. And that's exactly what this board has asked of you, and you've accomplished that. And as Marla said, you've maintained our fiscal solvency. You've always asked for our opinions, and you sincerely made us feel like they were taken to heart and incorporated into the budget. And you always anticipated our questions and had answers for us, which made us very confident in your abilities to lead us fiscally through some tough times. So we do all appreciate you. I know I do, and I'm sure there's some other board members that might want to say a few more words. But if I could ask Mr. Aguirre at the end if I can add some more comments after the rest of the board has an opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Reller. Mr. Sperry.
Yeah, again, I want to go along with everyone else and thank you, Ms. Cole, for all your service. You came on board, you had some big shoes to fill with our previous CBO, and you did quite well. Didn't even notice a hiccup in all your service, and we really, really appreciate it. You did a wonderful job and putting up with us and all that we do and ask, and just really want to thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. Mrs. Moon.
Well, Carol, I'm going to really miss you. I think Marla and Gary covered most of it, but it was such a pleasure to work with you. To me, the most important thing that was so helpful was that you were transparent and presented things in layman's terms so we could actually understand where we stood as a budget and keeping us sound. You will be so, so missed, and I hope you enjoy your retirement immensely.
Thank you, Mrs. Moon. And then myself, Carol, obviously you see how much you've meant to us and what you've done. It's such a great job, and we will be missing you because you make everything so simple to understand when it is complicated with numbers. And you've done such a great job. The transition, it feels like you were just here for a short period of time, but you did such an amazing job, and we will be missing you, because this is not an easy thing to do. But I just want to thank you so much for your service, and thank you for everything that you've done for the district itself. So thank you. Superintendent, Mr. Payton.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. I just want to echo Ms. Cole's service to the district and how much of a benefit she's been to me coming in as the new superintendent a few years ago. It's been a crutch that I can rely on and a great asset to the district. And we're going to miss her, and we wish her well in retirement. Ms. Cole, keep an eye on your mailbox. I believe you have a retirement gift showing up this week on behalf of your the district office staff and our board of trustees. So put those to good use after the holidays, and we wish you well in retirement.
Danny, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Yes, we're now going on to recognition. It's announcements. If we start with the student recognition, Mr. Payton.
Mr. Aguirre, is it okay if I say a few more words?
Oh, I'm so
on
sorry.
different topics?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. I don't know how we can top what the board and the superintendent just said, but I just want to highlight some things that were brought to our attention, as well as some of the things that I was part of. It was nice to read that PGHM has submitted some information to the state to request a reimbursement for some of the modernization at Romoland Elementary. That it's very important that we have an architectural firm that continues to advocate on our behalf and complete all that paperwork. And Carol is instrumental in making sure that PGHM does that. So it's another thing that Carol's doing that we don't even think of sometimes. I'd also like to highlight the COVID-19 dashboard. Great job in ensuring that we have transparency in our community. That's what is being desired with our elected officials in here in the United States, and here in Little Romoland, we're leading the way with that transparency, because that's what our community wants to know, what's going on, and I really appreciate that work that's being done. It's published on our website. I really do appreciate that. One of the last things, need to congratulate Danielle Sharp, Ethan A. Chase Middle School English Language Arts teacher. She was nominated for California League of Middle Schools Educator of the Year. I serve on that executive board, and I can tell you that she was my number one pick for the Educator of the Year. She came in second. She could have easily won first. What a class act we have in that young lady, going through the difficulties that she is in her life and still bringing it home to our students, and obviously teaches our kids more than just English language arts, teaches them about how to be a member of the community, having empathy, and understanding that life throws you curveballs from every now and then, and sometimes you have to dig deep and fight to ensure that you're able to overcome those obstacles. So Danielle Sharp, amazing job, and really do appreciate the work that she is doing. And to all of those that have allowed us to be informed of all of these great things, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reller. We will now move on to recognitions and announcements. Mr. Payton for student recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. So this is the time of the night where we get to highlight excellence in our students. And so we'll start with Boulder Ridge Elementary School, second grade student Alejandra Martinez, and second grade student Abigail Bannister. Congratulations to both of you from Boulder Ridge Elementary. Harvest Valley Elementary, we have third grade student Antonio Hernandez and first grade student Madison Izzo. Congratulations, Harvest Valley students. Mesa View Elementary, fourth grade student Ferris Rahman and Emma Hodges. Emma's a second grade student, sorry about that. So congratulations to both of you from Mesa View. Romoland Elementary, we have our kindergarten student Caden Machado and fourth grade student Lyra Morales Cortez. And last but not least, Ethan A. Chase Middle School, seventh grade student Matthew Mason and eighth grade student Kyler Nillis. So congratulations to all students. We appreciate your efforts and your excellence. Even with distance learning taking place, you guys are shining through as stars at your school site. So great job.
Thank you, Mr. Payne, and congratulations to all the students. We will now move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments, Mrs. Staxton?
No, we do not.
Okay. Employee association reports. Do we have any association reports? Mr. Murray?
We do not have any reports this evening.
Okay. Information items. So M1, Community Facilities District number 2001-1, 2002-1, 2002-2, 2004-1, 2006-1, 2006-3, and 2017-2 local agencies special tax and bonds accountability reports for fiscal year 2019, 2020. Mrs. Cole.
Yes, this is an information only item. No action is required. This is just provided for the board's information.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Mr. Aguirre, I'm going to ask a question. Ms. Cole, we don't need to approve this item, correct? It's just information?
That is correct.
So there's no approval needed on this?
Correct.
It's just information provided publicly on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. The next, we are moving on to the consent agenda. So consent agenda, the classified personnel assignment order number 6-2020-2021 needs to be amended to include the updated attachments. Mr. Murray?
Yes, we have an amended personnel order this evening, and it's due to the addition of one member, hopefully one new member of the staff in a few minutes, and that is a gentleman named Keith Bacon, who we're nominating as our chief business official.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept the amended classified personnel assignment order as presented? Do I hear a motion to approve this amendment consent agenda as presented?
I'll motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, thank you. Is there any discussions? No, okay, all in favor, Miss Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
Mrs. Moon,
Aye.
and myself, aye.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
are you going to be talking a little bit about our CBO?
I am certainly hoping I have a moment to do so. Mr. Bacon is currently out there watching our meeting this evening. He's not here so that we can meet with him personally, but I would like to give a little background on who we're bringing on board since you've approved him as our new chief business official. Mr. Bacon began working in education in 2013 as a part-time clerk responsible for health benefits. He then moved into a full-time accounting clerk position. He was later promoted to accountant before his current position as director of fiscal services in the Yucaipa-Calimesa School District. During this time, Keith earned a master's degree in public administration from Cal Baptist University and became a certified chief business official with CASBO. Keith is married, has 3 children, a freshman daughter and twin 6th grade boys, and 2 dogs. With his free time, Keith loves playing video games with his kids and to travel. Keith prides himself on finding ways to build teams, and he likes to see the business office have some fun. He's excited to expand his role to the position of from fiscal director to chief business official, and looks forward to serving the communities in the Romoland School District. He thanks the board and Mr. Payton for this opportunity. So we're looking forward to actually meeting him and having a conversation with him at our January board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. We'll now move on to our action item, which is 01, approval of 2020-2021 first interim financial report. Ms. Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre, and congratulations to you and Mr. Sperry on your elected roles. Before I begin my presentation, I'm just going to take a moment and thank the board for all their kind words this evening. I can't even tell you what a pleasure and an honor it has been to serve with this board, with the focus that you have on students. This has been a real privilege to be in the Romoland School District and to serve alongside the leadership team as well, and to watch the classified and certificated staff and all the wonderful things that happen in our district on a daily basis. So I just thank you for that opportunity before I move on to the first interim report. So I'll ask Vince to project the, there we go. Okay, so that's going to be our conversation, the first interim report for 2021. So I always like to orient us to where we are in the budget and reporting cycle. You'll remember you actually approved this budget in June, and we had to revisit it in August because there were so many differences between what the governor was proposing when we built the budget as to when the legislature actually approved the budget and was signed into law by the governor. Then in September, the board approved the unaudited actuals for last year. This is after we had closed the books on 1920. Tonight, we're going to discuss the first interim report for 2021. In March, you'll get a second glimpse at this year's budget with the second interim report. In June, you'll approve the upcoming school year budget, fiscal year budget, 21-22. And then you'll see this budget one last time in September with unaudited actuals. And of course, we do the first interim report for many good reasons. First and foremost, it is required by law. We're required to prepare and submit 2 interim reports each year. And this provides our stakeholders, our community, and the board with a status of where we're at in our current budget, as well as how we project the 2 out years to look. This report is actually due to the county today. I did submit all the critical paperwork today, and it reflects financial activity through October 31st. And again, I see the interim reports as a very good communication tool to all of our stakeholders. And it helps us understand what's happening not only in the current year, but in the 2 out years. Now this is a slide that contains a lot of really important information. I'm not going to read you every line, but I will point out some of the most important pieces of information on this slide. And it's important because these are really the building blocks that were used to anticipate what the revenue is going to be for this year and the 2 out years, as well as the expenditures. And this is all information that we know now. This is, of course, information that can change as we go through the year, but this is our best information at this point. Looking at the revenue column and starting in 2021, the current year, we are using the ADA that was actually our ADA for last year, the 3,999. The state is allowing all districts to use prior year ADA for funding this year to hold us harmless. The state did not know what the effects of school closures and COVID were going to be, so they wanted us to be held harmless in terms of our major source of revenue, and that's our state LCFF dollars. You'll see that in the 2 out years, now I am using an estimate that has been traditionally very stable and predictable in the Romoland School District, and that is a 2% growth year over year. So you'll see those numbers for estimated ADA for next year and the second year out. The other important thing to notice is that at this point, we are being funded for 0 COLA this year and in the 2 out years. And that does have a significant impact on our revenues. Our unduplicated pupil percentage, if you'll recall, this is actually how we receive our LCAP dollars. It's based on the combination of our low socioeconomic students, our English learners, and our foster youth. And I just want to point out here that this percentage has been going down slightly for the last few years. We think it's as a result of our shifting demographics in the district. But this is a super critical number for us, not only in terms of LCAP funding, but also our Title I dollars are based on our free and reduced lunch application. So it's a number we want to protect. We want to collect as many free and reduced lunch applications as possible every year. So just that's a number to keep an eye on. A reminder that in the first interim report, we do recognize any carryover funds from our prior year they're called deferred revenues, but easier to understand as carryover in our categorical programs, things like our Title I, Title II, and Title III. So any money that was unspent from last year, we get to bring back for use this year, and we recognize it. So it does cause our revenues to look like they've gone up. And that's the reason for that. The other thing that you're going to see in this year's revenues that you won't see in the 2 out years are the one-time CARES funds, which we'll talk about further on another slide. Going over to the expenditure column, just some general comments. We do recognize our expenditures that are associated with the restricted carryover funds. So you'll see an increase in expenditures for this year. And that's always the reason for it. It's a carryover from the prior year. The other thing I'd like to point out is the fact that while our STIRS and PERS contributions are fairly stable this year, basically net one another out, in our out years, we see increased contributions. In our third year out, we see a total of 5.4% increase in these contributions, which is significant. Also of note is the fact that based on the projection and the estimate that our enrollment will be going up next year, I have put an additional certificated FTE in each of the out years to accommodate that potential growth. Now let's just take a minute to talk about the CARES funds. As I said, we have recognized them in this year's budget. They come to us in 4 different pots of money, 3 federal and 1 state allocation. You'll see up at the top that our largest pot of money is the coronavirus relief funds. And before I go any further, I just want to clarify that all of these pots of money have been given to us for essentially the same purpose, and that's to support student achievement, academic achievement, and for learning loss mitigation as a result of the school closures and the COVID crisis. So going back to our first line there, our CRF dollars, as you can see, this is our largest pot of money. It's almost $3.4 million. It is also the pot of money that had the shortest amount of time that allowed us to spend it. As you can see, we have to have expended all those dollars by December 30th, which is just a few weeks ago, a few weeks ahead, I'm sorry, not ago, ahead. And of course, this has required a lot of contemplation and collaboration to make sure that these dollars were thoughtfully and meaningfully spent. Some of the expenditures were for things to support our distance learning environment that we're in right now. Some of the expenditures have been made in anticipation of students and staff returning to campus. So I did a very brief summary of the expenditures. I can always give you more detail at another time if you're interested. Of course, we purchased a large quantity of PPE, masks, disinfectant, gloves, wipes, cleaning materials, things to keep the students and the staff safe in terms of like plexiglass around the students' desks, plexiglass at front counters, signage, just a multitude of purchases that were made to keep everyone safe. The technology, of course, we're using technology like we've never used it before. There were purchases to make sure that every student has a Chromebook, that teachers have monitors for supporting them in their distance learning environment. Of course, our infrastructure needed to be upgraded because of all of the internet traffic, hotspots for students. When we go to instructional supports, there's learning platforms, tutoring supports that have been provided, even down to understanding that when the students come back, they should not be sharing instructional materials. So we've purchased so that every student can have their own instructional materials. Mental health supports for both staff and students. Some of our staff, of course, cannot work on campus right now because there aren't students there. That would be PE aides, the noon duty supervisors and so forth. We have repurposed them. They are doing other things for us at this time, so we're paying their salaries out of this funding source. And then professional development, just to make sure that staff, certificated and classified, are well supported teaching in this environment. There are many other things. We're doing COVID testing. The list is just very long, so I was trying to summarize that for you. The next pot of money is learning loss mitigation coming to us from the state. That must be spent by the end of this fiscal year. The purchase to date out of this pot of money is air filters for HVAC units in anticipation of students and staff coming back to campus. And this is to ensure good air quality in the classrooms. The ESSER funds and the GEAR funds, these are both federal pots of money, don't have to be fully spent until September of 22. We have purchased some items using the ESSER funds. I think the most significant purchase out of this money is site storage containers that we purchased for each of the school sites. That way the PPE materials can be distributed to each of the school sites. It's under their care and their distribution, and they can monitor that and request refills on things as they're used. The gear money we haven't even started to touch yet, but we are certain as the students and staff come back to school, there will be needs that we may not even be aware of at this point in time, and we'll be able to expend the funds on those types of needs. Okay, our next slide kind of goes to the heart of the first interim report, and that's a comparison of this year's budget, the 45-day budget revision, with our first interim. The gray column is the budget that was approved in August, and the one highlighted in green is our first interim budget. You'll see the differences there. We've already talked about the fact that revenues have increased because we recognized our carryover from our categorical programs with matching expenditures. There are a few new expenditures in the expenditure column, including the construction work that's going to be done for the Head Start program and a couple of maintenance and operations projects as well. You'll see that our we are deficit spending to such a small degree, it's less than $50,000, that I am certain that will change by second interim. We have an ending fund balance of $11,900, which permits us to cover our 3.5% reserve. You'll see those numbers below the blue bar, as well as $6.9 million in the assigned reserve category. Going on very briefly to the 2 out years, you'll notice that revenues, that second line, drop back down again because we do not have that rather large pot of over $4 million of one-time CARES in the budget. You do see that we are deficit spending in the 2 out years, and there are a few comments that I would like to make about that. First of all, because we are operating in a zero COLA environment, the only increases to revenue that we will see are those that are a result of increased enrollment. But contrasting that really low increase in revenue are always the increased expenditures that we encounter every year. And I know I've referenced the increase to STRS and PERS, but there's also a natural increase in the cost of doing business year over year, such as increased utility costs. I mean, you know, we all know that costs go up year over year. So I would like to say something else about these 2 years of deficit. I'm going out on a limb a little bit, but I am going to project that when you see second interim, it's highly likely that those deficits will be reduced. And that's for a couple of reasons. First, we will have heard what the governor is proposing in his budget for 21-22. So we'll have more solid information, better assumptions to create that budget in 21-22. The other thing is we're still being very, very conservative in our estimates at this point in time. So far as expenditures are concerned, we do not know what the year is really going to look like in terms of expenditures and how much savings we may be able to experience because we don't have students and staff on campus. So at second interim, you'll actually be halfway through the year and you'll have a better sense at that time of actually how this current budget year is going to end and that impact on the 2 out years. The final thing I'd like to say about the multi-year is that you can see that we still have a fairly healthy ending fund balance that allows us to, of course, have our 3.5% reserve, but we also still have money in our assigned reserve account line. It does go down year over year, but just to repeat, I think you will see a better looking 21, 22, 22, 23 at second interim. So just briefly to talk about Criterion Standards, I always like to give you a little bit of information from this component of the first of the interim reports. And that's because the Criterion Standards are really used by the state to evaluate our fiscal health. And the Criterion Standards is also useful in terms of looking at budget development in the out years where you can see patterns evolving and it can help guide some decision making. I'll just reference 4 highlights from the Criterion Standards. We've already talked about the fact that we are doing deficit spending at this point in time. I wanted to point out to you that according to the Criterion Standards, our cash is adequate. But I did want to just give you a reminder and an advisement. I'm sure you'll remember that you've already approved a trend for this year that actually will come into our cash flow in March of this year, and it will need to be repaid in October of next year. Under the advisement of the county, I included a trend in next year's cash flow as well. And this is because at this point in time, our understanding is that the cash deferrals that the state is imposing on school districts is ongoing. And that's really until further notice. And if you'll recall, the cash deferrals start in February and they are significant. This is a deferral of our cash, the cash that we receive from the state for our LCFF funding. It's really our major source of funding. And the deferrals are anywhere from 52 to 100% in any given month. And those deferrals do not get reimbursed to the district until well into next year. So at this point, the TRAN is definitely needed, but we'll see once the governor's budget comes out. Two positives: we are able to meet our reserves, as I've already pointed out, and we do not use one-time funds for ongoing expenditures, which is a really good practice, and I appreciate that. Just one point on this slide: it's always good news to inform the board that we are able to submit a positive certification. We can meet our financial obligations for this year and the 2 coming years, and that's always a good thing. My last slide are just some thoughts that I would like to leave you with. I think the board is aware that a few weeks ago, the Legislative Analyst Office came out with some very good news for school districts throughout the state. And that is that the revenues and kind of the downturn that was projected when the budget was initially developed in the beginning of this fiscal year is actually looking much better than was projected. At this point, the tax collections have been 22% above what was assumed. And this is very good news for school districts. The LAO sees this as a one-time windfall. And at this point, they are quantifying it as a $26 billion windfall. Of course, there's always a negative, a flip side to every coin. They are projecting that in the out years, state expenditures will outpace revenues, but this windfall is for the upcoming 21-22 school year, and it's fiscal year, and it's very good news. Of course, the LAO has ideas about how this windfall should come back to school districts. I am hopeful that that first bullet point does come to fruition, and that is to pay down all of those deferrals that I just referred to when we were talking about cash. The other suggestion that I'd like to point out is that if the state would be willing to pay down some of those pension cost increases, that would be extremely beneficial to school districts. But we don't know what that's going to look like until we hear from the governor, and that's going to be in January. So it remains to be seen what this actually materializes for school districts, but it is good news regardless of how it pans out. That's the end of my presentation, and I welcome any questions you might have.
I have a comment, Carol, and that would be, what a great way to end your career and going into retirement with a positive certification and 2 years of positive outlook. I mean, it can't get any better than that. I don't know.
Yes, I am very pleased with that, believe me. Thank you.
I agree 100% with the positive certification. Everything looks great.
Yes, yes.
I did have one question a few slides back for the air filters. Is there still, because it showed that it was at 0 for everything that we had already got. Is there still more for that if we do return to school?
More money, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes, that was the only money that was spent out of that pot. And I don't have that exact number off the top of my head. I think it was about $65,000 or $70,000. And so the balance will need to be spent by the end of the year. So,
and Mr. Aguirre, I'll add, I think that we bought enough just to have inventory to get us through the year. on those air filters. So we have them stockpiled in storage to do a couple of different things. The rating on those filters is increased compared to our typical filters because of COVID. And also the frequency of which they're changed out is also more frequent than in our typical years. And so both of those things were factored in as we purchased those filters. And we have enough to get us through the year.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
And I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, Ms. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
Mrs. Moon,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Gary, aye. Okay, we'll now move on to O2, substitute employee salary schedule. Mr. Murray.
Yes, this is an updated substitute salary schedule that allows the Romoland School District to remain compliant with the California minimum wage. That will go up to $14 per hour as of January 1, 2021.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments? No. Okay, do I hear a
Mr.
motion?
Murray,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Aguirre. Mr. Murray, is this for classified substitutes?
We have a combined our salary schedule for substitute employees that includes both classified and certificated. These changes particularly affect some of our classified positions.
I'm gonna ask another question, but I thought we normally approve certificated subs as a daily rate. Is this for if they're there less than a day?
You know, for classified employees, we still do an hourly rate. So for classified subs, certificated still have a daily rate, exactly that. So this one does not impact our certificated substitute teachers.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve? Well, we already went through it. All in favor? Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
Mrs. Moon,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Aguirre, aye. We'll now move on to O3, budget overview for parents 2020-2021. Mrs. Weiss.
Good evening, board. The budget overview for parents is known as the BOP. Each school district develops the BOP in conjunction with the LCAP by July 1st of each year. However, this year was not a traditional LCAP as in past years. This year we have the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan per Senate Bill 98 in response to COVID-19 and virtual learning. So for this year, districts are to adopt and submit the BOP with the first interim report on or by today, December 15th, 2020. The BOP shows the total projected revenue for the year and highlights LCFF supplemental and concentration funds. It also shows the funds noted in the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan for increasing or improving services to high needs students. Staff recommends approval of the BOP as presented.
Do you have any comments or questions?
Need a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Mr. Reller,
Bob. Oh, aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
and Mrs. Moon,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Aguirre, aye. And I am gonna go back to the last, for the salary schedule, we did not do a motion to approve. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask if I have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. And do I have a
Second. Second.
Thank you. And so, Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
Reller,
Aye.
Mr. Sperry,
Aye.
Mrs. Moon,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Geary. I thank you. So now, so we do not need to go into closed session. We now go out to reports. Mrs. Kleitz, anything for closing reports?
I do. Mr. Payton, when time permits, I was wondering if staff could inform the board on how we're putting books in students' hands, literary books. Or are the kids giving opportunities to check them out at school? Is that even allowed? Just kind of an update on what we can do as a district so our kids continue to read. And I apologize. I think I should have asked that question a long time ago. And it didn't come to my attention until my little first grade granddaughter brought it to my attention, and she goes to a different district and how she's reading. And I said, you know, I'm going to ask, see what we're doing there in Romoland. The numbers are going up. The only way we're going to get better is if we keep wearing those masks, keep social distancing, washing those hands. And everybody have a safe holiday.
Thank you, Ms. Kleitz. Mr. Reller.
I'd like to reiterate my request to schedule a study session in the light of Measure P not passing, a discussion about the need to potentially go to year-round schooling and boundary changes.
Thank you, Mr. Reller. That did not fall off our radar. We're working on some materials to prepare for that study session before we communicate some potential dates out to the board.
Thank you.
Mr. Sperry.
Not really much left to say. I once again thank you, Ms. Cole, for your service, and hope you enjoy your retirement. Thank you very, very much, and I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Moon.
Carol, you'll be missed. Happy retirement, and wishing everybody a Merry Christmas, and here's to a wonderful new year. Fingers crossed that we can all come back.
All right, thank you. And myself, one more again, Carol, thank you so much for your service. Enjoy retirement. And same, I would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And thank you all for your time tonight. So our regular board meeting is adjourned at 7:25. Good night.
Thank you, Manny.